Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to show you guys how to play Cascadia with the Landmarks expansion, because there are definitely going to be some differences here. Oh, and on a side note, I am going to be using the expansion box from now on instead of the base game box for all my stuff, because I just love this setting, and obviously I like the fox more than the elk. Okay, so you'll notice right away, it looks very strange, possibly, to you. For one thing, you'll notice we have the normal, what you're used to, which is the 5 animals that are out here, and obviously a pair of tile and animal tokens. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of them. That you're used to, most likely. After all, if you haven't played Cascadia, you shouldn't be watching this video because this is the expansion for it. Just thought I'd make mental note. But yes, that is normal to you. This stuff on the sides is not normal. So for now, ignore everything from here to here, those trees in the back, and obviously don't ignore the bear in the background over there. But yes, everything from here and down, ignore for now. We'll explain that later. So this is sort of the setup for a 5 to 6 player game. So I'm going to explain that first. How you're going to play with 5 players, or how you're going to play with 6 players. Because that means there are going to be some differences if you want to play 5 or 6 players. And you'll notice that right here. So you'll notice we have a pair of tiles here. There's five tiles, habitat tiles, and 5 animal tokens, and there's 1 token each here. Every player is going to get this in front of them. They're all going to get 5 random habitat tiles, okay? And then an animal will be basically drawn out for each one until you have, obviously, 5 of the different animals, okay? So you need to have 1 of each of these. You're not going to have a difference. One player is not going to have 3 bears while the other person has 2 hawks, you know. That's not going to happen. You're going to have 1 of each species, okay? Now, you're going to play your turn like normal, usually. How do you do that? Normally, what you do is you would take a tile and you'd take an animal of your choice. Of course, you'd take a pairing. That's what you would normally do on your turn. However, there's one difference when you play with this expansion, and that is that after you decide to take one of these pairings, and of course, there's, pine cones if you want to take a particular animal token or habitat, obviously. There's those. But afterwards, you have an option to take one of these as well. So instead of just taking 1 pairing on a turn, you could potentially take 2 turns, basically, using the 5 that you have. Now, if you're playing a 6-player game, you're each going to have these in front of you, but they're obviously going to be different tiles for each of the players, because they're not going to be the same. The animals are obviously going to be the same, all right? But one way or the other, you can only take, obviously, a pairing of this. So there isn't going to be other tiles that you can take. You're stuck with what you've got. So let's just do a demonstration. So let's say it's my turn, and I decide, you know what, I'm going to take this one here and this one. Okay, and I could do that. I could do that, for instance, and put that like that, for instance. And I could put an animal down somewhere, I don't know, there, right? Now, before the next player goes, I have an option to take one of these as well. Maybe I want to get started on this salmon run. So you know what? I'll take this one here. I could put that there, for instance. And you know what? Let's get this forest going. Let's make it bigger, right? Let's maybe place it here, for instance. Something like that. That's taking two actions, basically, or 2 turns on 1 turn. But here's the thing. This does not get replenished. That means that once you take this, it's gone, and you won't get access to you'll only have these left, obviously. So that means you can only do it 5 times. So you can only take an additional 2nd turn on the same action, basically, the same turn, 5 times. So normally, this game when you play a 6-player game, you would have 15 turns. Each player would have 15 turns, but they're going to have 5 additional turns that they can, if they want to, decide to do and take an additional tile and animal. Now, if you don't like a particular, maybe perhaps you want to be able to take this bear and this tile here, you can still use a pine cone to change the animal pairings. So you can change one pairing. So if you wanted to take this tile with the bear on it and this token on the same turn, you could literally use a pine cone and switch the hawk with the bear, for instance, if you liked that better. That's something you could do. But you're only going to do it, like I said, 5 times, and then once you're done, you're done. Now, here's the thing. This is obviously going to be contingent on a lot of things. You might not want to do this right away because of your strategy. You might be waiting for a certain, there's a lot of strategy to this game for sure. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing this on your very first 5 turns. But here's the thing. You've only got 15 turns. And let's say you only managed to do this one time and the game is over. That does not mean you get to place these out once the game is over. If you do not place all of your extra special tiles and animal tokens out, and then the game is over, then you don't get to place them at all. So make sure you take them and place them into your ecosystem here before the game is done. And remember, you can only do this once per turn. So if you realize, oh, it's the last turn, there's only 1 turn left, and I still got 4 out, well, that means you're only going to get to do 1 more of them. And then you're basically 3 actions behind now, which could be devastating towards your score. So that's something to note. If you're playing the 5 or 6 player game, you're going to obviously have some differences when you play a 5 to 6 player game versus a normal game, okay? So that's basically how you play with the 5 to 6 player game. That's the basic way. Now, you'll notice we also have these cards out on the sides. These are our landmarks, okay? And if you're going to play the landmarks module, okay, if you're going to play this module here, there's a couple of other changes. So when you play the landmarks module, what you're going to do is you'll actually have 4. You'll notice this is considered a key habitat tile, okay? A keystone habitat tile. Well, your keystone habitat tile is not 3. It's actually going to be 4 if you're playing it's going to be a 4 size if you're going to be playing with the landmarks module. But you're wondering, there are no 4 sizes of this because there's only 3. And that's where these regular habitat tiles come in. So you're going to be, depending on how many people are playing, so let's say we're playing a 6-player game, you're going to take out 6 more of these tiles randomly, okay? And then the player who's last in this game is going to get to choose first which one of these they want to take to add to here. So, I don't know, maybe they're thinking they're going to take this one here because, it's got a bear on it, and that has a bear, and that has a bear. And maybe they want to get Mother Bear and her cubs, something like this. That might be something they want to do, and that works. So that could be their starting keystone tile. So that's how that's going to work. And so the player who goes first in the game is going to get stuck with whatever's left, okay? That's how that's going to work. So clockwise order, obviously, last player to first player is going to get an extra tile. So extra, obviously, meaning you'll have potentially more animals to place or to choose from where you're going to place things. So that's why that's there for the landmarks module. But of course, the main part of the landmarks module is these cards. Now, how do you get these cards? Well, you have to obviously get one of the corresponding landmarks. So, if you want the mountain cards, you're going to need a mountain meeple, okay? So, how do you get the mountain meeple? Well, there's actually not enough mountain tiles out for this demonstration. So let's say you wanted the wetlands meeple. Okay, so here's the wetlands meeple. Okay, let's say I wanted this meeple here, this green one, okay? Let's say I'm playing my turn here, And I'm taking tiles. Of course, I'm taking animals, but I'm not going to take any animals right now. But let's just say I'm taking tiles, and I've got 3 here already, for instance. And, oh, and I technically start with 4, right? So, let's say we have another one here. That makes 4. And then we get another one, and we make a contiguous group of the wetlands. And now I have reached 5. What that means is I now have access to this meeple. So then, once I place the 5th tile that makes up a contiguous group of a particular terrain, once I do it, it doesn't matter which one it is, if it was savanna or river or forest or mountain, I would grab the corresponding meeple for it, and then I can place this on the tile that I just placed. Okay, so if this was the tile I just placed, I could place it on this one. I cannot place it on this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. It has to go on the one that I just put into, obviously, into my ecosystem here. But here's the thing. Once you place this down here, you cannot place an animal here, too. Only that can go there. So that does mean it's going to limit your options of where you can place animals. And maybe, just maybe, the tile that you took was the one and only that was going to work for your animal that you were going to put there. Well, that's the thing. If you do that, then you don't get this. So, why do you want these? Why is this so important? Well, they give you extra points. That's why. So, once you get this, then you can take one of the corresponding cards that go for that terrain type. So I could take this for 3 extra points at the end of the game. That's one of the possibilities I can take. Now I have 6 out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you're playing a 6-player game, you would have 6 of these out for each one of the terrain landmarks, okay? Trees, mountains, water, or should I say waves for river, these grass things for the savanna, and the whatever these are called for the wetlands. Okay, so that's what you're going to have. Now, you can only have 1 for each terrain type. So I cannot, for instance, if I had a grouping of wetland over here and I made another contiguous group of wetland over here, I could not take another one of these and place it down. You only get 1. So that's the thing. If you're going to go for that route, you better make sure that you're okay with not placing the animal at that location. Now, let's say the animal that you were going to take can only go on the tile that you just put down, and there was no other place to put it. Well, the animal's optional. Remember, sometimes you'll come to a point where you won't, when you normally play the game without this expansion, and you normally play the game, and you can't place an animal because there is no animal place that works with any of the tiles you have, or the tiles that are out for that matter, right? And you have no pine cones to obviously change that up, right? So what do when that happens? Well, when that happens, it means you do not get the animal, you just get the terrain tile. That's it. So you do not have to place an animal out when you place this landmark out, for that matter. So if you get to place a landmark and it doesn't work with your strategy to take the animal that goes with it, or to take an animal in general because you have a pine cone or whatever it may be, well, you can still just place that out and not place the animal out. That is how that's going to work. And there's different cards. There's 12 cards for each of the different terrain tiles. And so if you're playing with 6, you're not playing with all of them. So you're going to have a different mismatched for each one, because you're supposed to shuffle them and then draw 6 out. So it's never going to be the same 6 twice, for each of the different terrains. You might get some that have the same thing on them for the different terrains, like fox in the forest and fox in the prairie, for instance. I got the same one, but for different terrain. That might happen, but you're not going to have the same exact 6 for each of the different terrains. They're all going to be different, more or less. And so that means you can get extra points. So like I said, fox in the prairie, if you were to take this card, because you got a savanna out, 5 contiguous group of savanna out, then that means you could get 1 point for every fox that you have on a prairie. I guess the yellow savanna-looking thing is called a prairie, not a savanna. So that clarifies that for me. Prairie. They're called prairie. That makes sense. I don't know why I was calling them savanna all this time. But yes, so the yellow stuff is prairie. So yeah, that's how that's going to work. There's different cards that are going to score you. Some are easier to understand than others. But yes, that's how that's all going to work for the landmarks expansion. And that means, since you can only take one of each of these, that means you're only going to have 5 at most of these landmarks. That means that now, not only are you, some of my folks, they might play this game and completely forget to place their tiles out, so that way they have a grouping of all these different terrains. Now it means they're going to have to obviously keep an eye on how they're placing their terrains out. It's going to definitely be more thought-provoking for sure, because not only do they have to try to, get all the animals to work how they want them, how they need to be arranged, but now they need to think much harder on how their terrains are going to be arranged, so that way they can get some of these cards, So, but yeah, that's basically everything that you need to know in order to play this expansion. So if you guys liked this how to play video, don't forget to leave me a like, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.